You will make 35,000 decisions today. That is not hyperbole. That is not some inflated number designed to grab your attention. That is the figure researchers have landed on for the average adult navigating a typical day. 35,000 micro choices, ranging from what to wear to how to respond to an email to whether that meeting actually needs to happen to what words to use in a difficult conversation. Most of them feel insignificant in the moment. A quick yes here, a minor adjustment there, this font or that one, this phrasing or the alternative, reply now or save it for later. Nothing earth-shattering, nothing that feels like it deserves serious mental energy. But here is the thing nobody tells you. Those insignificant decisions are eating you alive. Every choice, no matter how small, withdraws from the same cognitive bank account. And that account is not unlimited. It does not refill automatically. It depletes with use and replenishes only with rest. By 3 p.m., most of us are running on fumes. By evening, we are reaching for the easy answer, the path of least resistance, the decision that requires the least mental effort. This is decision fatigue, and it is the invisible tax bleeding your business dry. I know because I paid it for years without even realizing I was writing the check. I thought exhaustion was the price of ambition. Feeling depleted by 4 p.m. meant I was working hard. I thought the fog that descended over my thinking every afternoon was just normal, just how business worked, just what it meant to be busy. I was wrong, and the realization changed how I build everything. The day I hit the wall, it was a Tuesday. Nothing special about it. Standard meetings are scattered throughout the day. Standard emails are accumulating faster than I can process them. Standard fires to put out, problems to solve, decisions to make. I started the morning at 6:30, already running through the mental list of everything that needed attention before I even finished my first cup of coffee. By 9 a.m., I had made 200 decisions without consciously registering any of them. Which client to call first, how to phrase a difficult email, whether to approve a project change, what to include in the presentation deck, how to handle the scheduling conflict, whether the budget needed revision, which task to tackle first, whether to respond to that Slack message now or later. None of them felt heavy in the moment. Each one was just a small thing that needed handling, just part of the job, just another item to process before moving to the next. By 4 p.m., a client sent me a straightforward question, something I should have been able to answer in 30 seconds. A simple clarification about our timeline. Nothing complex, nothing requiring deep analysis. Instead, I stared at the screen for 15 minutes, unable to form a coherent response. The words would not come. My brain felt like it was moving through mud. I would start a sentence, lose the thread, delete it, start again. The cursor blinked at me like it was waiting for someone competent to show up. My brain was not tired in the normal sense. It was empty, like someone had reached inside my skull and scooped out whatever was left. The tank was not low. The tank was dry. I ended up telling them I would get back to them tomorrow. A simple question, a straightforward answer, 24-hour delay, all because I had spent the entire day making decisions that did not matter, and now I had nothing left for the one that did. That night, lying awake thinking about it, I started tracking. I wanted to know where my mental energy was actually going. For 1 week, I logged every decision I made. Not just the big ones, every single choice, no matter how trivial it seemed. What font should the proposal use? Logged. Which version of the headline was better? Logged. Should I schedule the call for 2 p.m. or 2:30? Logged. Reply now or later? Logged. This task or that one first? Logged. Lunch at the desk or take a break? Logged. The results were brutal. 73% of my decisions were low impact, things that could have been automated, delegated, or eliminated entirely. I was spending the majority of my cognitive resources on choices that would not matter in a week, let alone a year. Meanwhile, the decisions that actually shaped my business, the strategic calls, the relationship decisions, the moments that would compound into significant outcomes, I was making them exhausted, distracted, and half present. I was optimizing the wrong thing entirely. The science of ego depletion. There is a reason Steve Jobs wore the same black turtleneck every day. Same reason Obama stuck to gray or blue suits throughout his presidency. Same reason Zuckerberg has closets full of identical gray t-shirts. These are not fashion choices. They are strategic resource allocation. They understood something most of us miss. Decision-making is a depletable resource. Every choice you make, no matter how small, costs something, and you only have so much to spend. The scientific term is ego depletion. Roy Baumeister, the psychologist who pioneered this research, demonstrated that every act of willpower, every choice, every moment of self-control draws from the same well, and that well runs dry. Baumeister ran an elegant experiment that illustrated this perfectly. He had participants come into a lab that smelled of freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. Some participants were told to eat the cookies. Others were told to resist the cookies and eat radishes instead. Then both groups were given an impossible puzzle to solve. Not difficult, impossible. The researchers were not measuring success. They were measuring persistence. How long would people keep trying before giving up? The radish eaters gave up almost twice as fast as the people who had been allowed to eat the cookies. Why? The act of resisting the cookies had depleted their willpower. They had used up their self-control on the radishes and had less left for the puzzle. Same people, same puzzle, different results. The only variable was what they had spent their willpower on beforehand. A famous follow-up study looked at judges making parole decisions throughout the day. Early in the morning, they granted parole about 65% of the time. By late afternoon, nearly zero. Not because the cases were different, not because the afternoon prisoners were more dangerous, because the judges were exhausted from making decisions all day long. They defaulted to the easiest answer: deny. Keep things as they are. No additional cognitive load required. The path of least resistance became the only path they could manage. Now think about your business. How many important decisions are you making at 4 p.m. after a full day of putting out fires and answering emails and choosing between this meeting or that one? How many strategic choices happen when you are depleted rather than fresh? How many times have you defaulted to the easy answer, not because it was right, but because you were running on empty and could not muster the energy for the harder choice? Every time you choose between two similar options that do not matter, you are stealing from the reserve you need for the choices that do. This is not a willpower problem. This is not a discipline problem. This is a resource allocation problem. And most of us are allocating terribly. The hidden costs. Nobody talks about decision fatigue does not just make you tired, it makes you worse at everything. When your cognitive tank is empty, you default to whatever is easiest. You avoid risk because risk requires evaluation, and evaluation requires energy you do not have. You procrastinate on hard things because hard things demand mental resources you have already spent. You say yes to requests you should decline because no requires justification and yes requires nothing. Your creativity tanks. Novel solutions require fresh thinking. They require the ability to see connections, to hold multiple possibilities in mind, to play with ideas before committing to one. When you are depleted, you reach for the obvious answer, the thing you have always done, the path already worn into the ground. The breakthrough idea? You cannot access it. That part of your brain is offline. Your patience evaporates. Small irritations become major problems. You snap at team members over things that would not have bothered you at 9 a.m. You cut conversations short because you cannot sustain attention. You make decisions faster just to be done with them. Accuracy be damned. Your judgment suffers in ways you do not even notice. Depleted brains take shortcuts. They miss details. They fail to consider second-order consequences. They weight short-term relief over long-term outcomes. The decision that seemed perfectly fine at 4 p.m. reveals itself as obviously flawed at 9 a.m. the next day when you have resources to actually think. And perhaps worst of all, your self-control disintegrates. This is why diets fail at night, why impulse purchases happen after exhausting days, why you reach for the drink or the scroll or the junk food after a day of making too many choices. The willpower muscle is shared across all domains. Use it all on work decisions, and you have nothing left for personal ones. I used to think discipline was about trying harder, white-knuckling my way through. If I was failing at something, I just needed more willpower, more commitment, more effort. What I learned, discipline is not about more willpower. It is about using less. It is about building systems that reduce the number of decisions you need to make so you have reserves left for the ones that actually count. The goal is not to be stronger. The goal is to need less strength. The three-part framework: eliminate, automate, pre-decide. After that week of tracking, I built a framework. 3 steps. Simple to understand, harder to implement, but absolutely transformative once you do. Part 1. Eliminate. The best decision is the one you never have to make. Start by auditing your decision load. For 3 days, write down every choice you make. Be ruthless about capturing them, the trivial ones especially. Those are the ones that slip under the radar while quietly draining your reserves. Then ask one question about each. Does this decision actually need to exist? You will be surprised how many do not. How many are relics of systems that made sense once but no longer serve you? How many are habits disguised as necessities? How many exist only because you never stopped to question whether they should? For me, it started with clothes. I simplified my wardrobe to variations on the same theme: black, gray, navy, items that all work together. I stopped deciding what to wear because the decision no longer exists. Everything matches, everything works. Grab and go. Then I moved to work. Every meeting on my calendar had to justify its existence. If it did not have a clear decision to be made or a specific outcome to achieve, it got cut, eliminated, gone. Meetings that were really just status updates became emails. Meetings that were really just habit became nothing. I stopped checking email in the morning. Not reduced, stopped entirely. That eliminated dozens of micro decisions about what to respond to, when to respond, how urgent something actually was. The morning became protected space for work that mattered. I eliminated options where options did not serve me. My morning routine is the same every day. My lunch is essentially the same. My end-of-day shutdown procedure is scripted. Sounds boring, feels liberating. Elimination is not about being rigid. It is about protecting your cognitive resources for where they matter. Every decision you eliminate is a decision you cannot be depleted by. Part 2. Automate. Some decisions cannot be eliminated. They need to happen. But they do not need to happen manually. They do not need your active attention every single time. Automation is not just about technology, though that helps. It is about creating systems that make choices for you based on criteria you set in advance. You make the decision once, and then the system executes it repeatedly without requiring your involvement. Financial decisions. I automated savings, investments, bill payments. The money moves on the same day every month without me touching it. No decision required, no willpower spent. The system handles it. Content decisions. I built templates and frameworks for everything I create regularly. When it is time to write, I do not stare at a blank page wondering what format to use. The system already decided. I just fill in the structure. Client decisions, intake forms, qualification criteria, pricing structures. Instead of evaluating each opportunity from scratch, the system does the initial sorting. By the time something reaches me, most of the decisions are already made. Email decisions. Filters and rules route messages where they belong automatically. Newsletters go to one folder. Urgent client messages get flagged. Low priority notifications get archived. I am not manually triaging 100 emails a day anymore. Scheduling decisions. My calendar has blocks for deep work, client calls, and administrative tasks. People book into available slots. I do not negotiate meeting times back and forth. The calendar handles it. Here is a question I ask myself about every recurring decision. Is this a pattern-based decision or a judgment-based decision? Pattern-based decisions follow predictable rules. If X happens, do Y. If this type of email arrives, route it there. If a client meets these criteria, proceed to the next step. These are automation candidates. Judgment-based decisions require context, nuance, weighing trade-offs. These need human attention. These are worth your cognitive resources. Most of us spend our human attention on pattern-based decisions because we have not taken the time to build the systems. That is backwards. Build the systems. Reclaim your judgment for where it actually matters. Part 3. Pre-decide for decisions that cannot be eliminated or automated. There is a third option. Decide in advance. This is different from planning. Planning is about what you will do. Pre-deciding is about how you will choose when situations arise. You are making the decision now, when you are fresh and thinking clearly, so you do not have to make it later when you are depleted. I have pre-decided my response to most common business situations, not because every situation is identical, but because most variations are predictable. The specific details change. The category of decision does not. Someone wants to pick my brain over coffee? Pre-decided. Polite decline with a link to my consulting options. No deliberation required in the moment. A project is going sideways? Pre-decided. Immediate conversation with the client, followed by weekly check-ins until it is back on track. I do not have to figure out the response. The response already exists. A client wants to expand scope mid-project? Pre-decided. Documented change order process, always. No exceptions, no negotiating in the moment. Someone asks for a discount? Pre-decided. The answer is no, unless they fit specific criteria I have already defined. I do not evaluate each request individually. A networking opportunity arises? Pre-decided. Check against 3 criteria. If it does not meet the bar, automatic no. If it does, automatic yes. The magic of pre-deciding is that you make the choice when you have the mental resources to think it through carefully. You consider the trade-offs, you weigh the implications, you decide what aligns with your values and goals. Then when the situation arises, you simply execute the decision you already made. You are not choosing in the moment. You are implementing a choice you made earlier when you had the capacity for it. Pre-deciding also makes you faster. While others are weighing options, deliberating, going back and forth, you are already moving. The decision happened weeks or months ago. You are just implementing now. What changes when you protect your decisions? 6 months after implementing this framework, I noticed something I did not expect. I was not just less tired. I was actually thinking differently. With cognitive reserves intact, I started seeing connections I had missed before. Creative solutions emerged because I had the mental space for them. Strategic thinking happened because I was not constantly putting out fires and processing trivial choices. My 3 p.m. self started to resemble my 9 a.m. self. Not identical, but capable, clear, present, able to engage with complex problems instead of just surviving until the day ended. Clients noticed. Conversations got better, not because I was trying harder, but because I actually had something left to give. I was not running on fumes pretending to be engaged. I was actually engaged. Relationships improved. I was not snapping at people. I was not running on empty every evening. I had patience left, energy left, presence left. The people who mattered got a version of me that was actually present, not the exhausted shell I used to bring home. The irony is that protecting your decision-making capacity makes each decision better. You are not just making fewer choices, you are making better ones. With more clarity, more creativity, more strategic depth. Quality improves as quantity decreases. And the things I eliminated, nobody missed them, not even me. The meetings that got cut were not valuable. The decisions that got automated were not worth my attention. The choices that got pre-made did not benefit from in-the-moment deliberation. I was not losing anything real. I was reclaiming something I did not even know was being stolen. The uncomfortable truth about high performers. Here is what high performers understand that everyone else misses. Your capacity to choose is your most valuable asset, not your time. Time can be managed and leveraged, not your money. Money can be earned and invested, not your network. Networks can be built and nurtured. Your ability to make good decisions when it matters. That is the irreplaceable resource. Everything else flows from that. Good decisions compound. They create opportunities that create more opportunities. They build trust that opens doors. They generate returns that far exceed the effort invested. One good decision leads to better options for the next decision. Bad decisions do the opposite. They create problems that require more decisions to fix. They close doors. They consume resources. They narrow your options instead of expanding them. The difference between these outcomes often is not intelligence or information. It is whether you had the cognitive resources to think clearly when the moment demanded it. Protecting your decision-making capacity is not a productivity hack. It is the foundation of building something that lasts. It is how you ensure that when the important moments arrive, you are actually capable of rising to them. Most entrepreneurs are playing a losing game. They are making more and more decisions, exhausting themselves, and wondering why their results are not improving. They are working harder and harder while getting less and less. The answer is not to decide faster. Speed is not the issue. The answer is to decide less, protect the resource, spend it only where it counts. Where to start tomorrow? This does not require a complete life overhaul. Revolution is not the goal, evolution is. Start small. Pick one area of recurring decisions that drains you, just one. Maybe it is your morning routine. Maybe it is how you process email. Maybe it is how you respond to meeting requests. Maybe it is what you eat for lunch. Apply the framework. Can you eliminate it? Can you automate it? Can you pre-decide it? Implement one change, just one. See how it feels. Notice the energy you get back. Notice the mental space that opens up. Then pick another area and another. Let the changes compound. Here are specific starting points that tend to yield immediate returns. Email. Set specific times for checking it. Morning and afternoon only. Everything else waits for those windows. No exceptions. Meetings. Default to no unless there is a clear agenda with a clear decision required. If it could be an email, it should be an email. Wardrobe. Pick a uniform. Same basic outfit every day. Variation within a narrow range. Decision eliminated. Food. Decide your meals for the week in advance. Ideally, the same few options rotating. Stop deciding what to eat while hungry. Requests. Create criteria for what gets a yes. Everything that does not meet the criteria gets a polite no. Pre-decided. Over time, these changes compound. You will find yourself at 4 p.m. with reserves left. You will make better choices in the moments that matter. You will build from a place of clarity rather than exhaustion. The goal is not to eliminate all decisions. That would be impossible and undesirable. The goal is to be intentional about which decisions get your energy. Save your judgment for where it counts. Let systems handle the rest. The bottom line, you are not tired because you are weak. You are not struggling because you lack discipline. You are tired because you are making too many decisions that do not matter, and you have nothing left for the ones that do. Decision fatigue is real. It is measurable. It is predictable. And it is probably costing you more than you realize. Not just in energy, in quality of thinking, in creativity, in the ability to show up fully for the people and work that matter, but it is also fixable, not through trying harder, through thinking differently about where your cognitive resources go. Eliminate what does not need to exist, automate what follows a pattern, pre-decide what you can anticipate. Protect your capacity to choose. It is the invisible engine behind everything you build. Guard it like the precious resource it is, one decision at a time, one day at a time. Grace over guilt, always.